Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Geekorama, the podcast by geeks for geeks. We are sponsored by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for all your superhero novel needs, and now the largest website dedicated to superhero fiction. We are your hosts.
I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of The Children of Nostradamus.
And I am T.L. Heinrich, author of the Vigilantes universe. What are we talking about this week, Jeremy?
We sat on this for as long as we could, but we need to spend some time and dissect WandaVision. So
we do.
We'll make sure to let you know when spoilers are going to happen, because they are going to happen.
Yes, it's a spoiler-filled episode.
By the way,
yes.
Nice to see that you shaved your beard. I've been sitting on that all day.
Oh my God. I was going to ask how long you've been waiting to say that. Yes.
No
yeah, my husband subbed for me. Actually, it was one of those, he asked me, he's like, why do you want me to guest host? And I said, Jeremy needs someone to talk about X-Men that's actually read the comics.
When he started name dropping, I was like, don't show fear. Don't show fear. I've read all the stories, but other than a handful of like writers, I couldn't tell you who does what book. That's just something I've never paid attention to. And people who have that information stored away, I'm just like, you have that. I have 80 song lyrics.
Oh, he's got song lyrics too. Trust me. But no, his comic knowledge is very impressive. And it's only because of him that I've read comics like the Dark Phoenix Saga, The Last Halloween, Dark Knight Returns, you know.
He definitely got his New Mutants on. And of course, as normal, I was a proponent of the New Mutants movie, and he just looked the other way.
You know what? There's a reason why I have him developmentally edit my superhero books, because his taste is very, he will sniff out a plot hole. He's very, I wouldn't say difficult to impress, but he is kind of difficult to impress at the same time.
And it's funny because I don't know why this happens, and we'll even talk about this today. Some things I'm just willing to overlook. New Mutants, I enjoyed that movie. Dark Phoenix, it was a crap movie.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 1, awesome. Wonder Woman 2, I couldn't tolerate it. Like, yeah. And yet here I am being like, New Mutants was awesome. So like, there is something that,
yeah,
if you wet my tongue with this, I'm willing to go on a very horrible adventure with you. I think part of it is I root for the underdog, and that movie was definitely an underdog.
It was, yeah. But he had a good time, so.
Oh, good. Eventually we'll have him come back when I'm allowed to talk about X-Men again.
What is on your poll list today?
So, thanks to the wonderful Michael Bailey, I finally decided it was time to dive into the Immortal Hulk. This is a character I hate. This is a superpower story that I just loathed my entire existence. I couldn't be bothered. I'm not a Hulk fan. So do take all of this with a grain of salt. The creative team of Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, and Roy Jose, which I'm sure I just butchered all those names, they wanted to offer a genre-based comic. So it's not an action adventure, it is a horror comic. And the first cover is done by Alex Ross, which, if you don't know who Alex Ross is, he did Kingdom Come for DC and basically altered the way artwork is done across the spectrum. So it had some oomph behind it. You can tell that Marvel was like, we're putting some money here. And basically what it is it's after an event where Hawkeye pokes Bruce Banner in the brain with an arrow, and he's no longer that ultra super genius. He's just a normal genius now. And I just love how he's like, oh yeah, I'm still a world-renowned physicist, but I don't make nano body armor and like every other person in comics.
Well, now you're just a dumb shit.
Yeah, just a normal physicist. And so it really, again, it goes into this whole duality of Bruce Banner versus the Hulk. Bruce Banner has made a little bit of peace with the Hulk in the fact that it's a little bit more of a vigilante story because Bruce Banner wants to do some good in the world with the Hulk, but it's very brutal how it happens. People get slaughtered. And it is a horror-ish comic in the fact that it really does build up some tension. But I got bored.
Oh, geez.
So I compared it to Venom. I did a pull list for Venom a couple episodes ago. And what I really liked about the Venom one is it's the duality with Venom, except it reinvented the mythos behind him. And now there's like a Venom god, and this will play into a much bigger plot line down the road. But there was something new. Whereas I'm 5 issues into this, and it's the same story. Bruce Banner is trying to coexist with the Jolly Green Giant, except it's a little bit darker. So it's a good story. It's very solidly written. So if you are a Hulk fan, I think you'll really, really like it. For me, it just didn't bring anything new to the table. So for that, I have to drop it to 3.5 out of 5. But again, if you're a horror fan, you like really not gritty, but tension-filled comics, or you like the Hulk, I say give it a read. The artwork is beautiful.
Alex Ross is incredibly talented.
Well, he only does the cover.
Oh.
It's very clearly in the credits, cover.
Oh, okay.
And the cover is a beautiful piece of artwork on its own. And the interior is also well done. So if you're a person who reads comics for the art, it's definitely worth it. And I think it even gets better as the issues go on. It's just, I wanted something different.
Yeah, a different spin on the character.
And they're doing a really good job. The narration is awesome. I hate inner monologue. Just hate it. And this is done really well. It kind of almost reminds me of Frank Miller's Daredevil in a way. It's very sparse, and it's very, very adult. So definitely good things. I'm not saying it's a bad book, just not a 5-star.
Yeah, not your cup of tea.
So what do you have on your pull list?
I have A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas.
The cover is gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous cover. The book itself is a doorstopper. I mean, George R.R. Martin, eat your heart out. This thing is fucking huge. And I treated myself. This came out a couple of days after my birthday, and I've been waiting on this book for 1.5 years, like many other fans of the series. Unlike the other books, however, this one, so the previous books are focused on the character of Feyre and Rysand. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Rise. They call him Rise. And their love and defeating these 2 really horrible, evil Fae that want to plunge the world into darkness and all this kind of stuff. And the 5th book focuses on Nesta, who is Feyre's older sister, and Cassian, who's Rysand's adopted brother. And these 2 are really they're introduced in the first, Nesta's introduced in the first book, Cassian in the 2nd book, and then they're brought together in the 3rd book. But the 3rd book really isn't about them, but the sparks fly. And ever since that third book came out, fans have been clamoring for Nesta and Cassian's story because it was left very much unsatisfying. It's obvious that they have fallen in love with each other in the third book, but because of the war and the trauma that Nesta in particular goes through in the third book, it really plunges her into this very destructive, depressive episode. There's a lot of obvious post-traumatic stress disorder behavior, a lot of self-destructive behavior. She ends up completely cutting herself off from her sisters, Feyre and the other sister, whose name escapes me right now, Elaine. And sleeping with people, just having these empty sexual encounters, overindulging in alcohol, purposely living in a slum, when, you know, Feyre is like, I'm basically the queen of the night court. Like, I could give you anything you wanted. And nobody can get through to her. She's completely cut herself off. And so this fifth book is about the family basically having an intervention and saying, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work anymore. These are your choices. And Feyre and her sisters, so Nesta, Feyre, and Elaine, all start off as human, and through different things that happen, they are transformed into Fae, high Fae. So they now are immortal, or at least they have like these incredibly long lifespans, and they are unwelcome in the human lands. And so Nesta's given this choice: either we banish you to the human lands, or you do what we tell you. And so the book takes place over the course of a year, where Nesta is kind of not imprisoned, but she's put in time out up in this house that you cannot get out of unless one of the characters flies you out or you go down 10,000 spiraling steps. And throughout the course of this time, her and Cassian really, those sparks really do fly, and they're able to work through each other's traumas and help each other do that. But she also makes these friends. There's a library where women from all over the Fae lands who have had trauma happen to them, and they no longer want to live in the Fae world, they can come into this library and enter this priesthood, and they could be safe. And so she makes friends with some of those priestesses, and then she makes a friend with another woman who, there's a race of beings that have wings, and they clip the wings of their women to make them subservient. And so she makes friends with one of these women whose wings have been clipped. And so Nesta is traumatized, and she makes friends with other traumatized people and ends up creating this group of women that learn how to fight. They learn hand-to-hand combat. They learn sword training. They talk to each other about their traumas. They work out those things that they haven't been able to talk to anybody else about. And they become this sisterhood of fighting warriors. And the thing in these books that Sarah Maas does is she pulls things from fairy tales and mythology, and she just weaves it all together. So, for instance, like there's shades of Beauty and the Beast and Rumpelstiltskin, and even biblical things like Moses and the Red Sea. And she also brings in the Valkyries. And so the Valkyries are these legendary female warriors, and Nesta and her friends decide they're going to be the new Valkyries. And the whole book, it's like almost 800 pages, is really an intense story about healing and acceptance of yourself, of your wounds, that your wounds don't have to keep you weak and useless, that these wounds can, through working with other people, through found family with other victims, they can give you strength. They can give you this new perspective on life. And it's one of the things I greatly appreciate about these books, because Sarah Maas takes Feyre through a very similar event in the second book. And in reading these two book 5 and having read book 2, it's just this beautiful story of healing of these two women that have these two very different wounds going on inside of them, and how they are healed through sisterhood and through finding true love, because her and Cassian do end up finally getting together at the end. And there is also some of the single most hottest sex scenes I've ever read in my entire life in this book. They are incredible. So if you like a lot of steam in your high fantasy romance books, this is the series. The whole series is like this. I loved this book. Sarah J. Maas's prose, the way that she writes these characters, the way that she has built this world. It was a phenomenal book. I've also her most divisive in the whole series, because I've seen as many people say they loved it as they hated it. So to me, I'm giving it 5 out of 5 capes, and I'm crossing my fingers that next is Elaine and Azriel's story. Come on, Sarah, give us the last one that we all want.
I can't think of the last. I can't think of the last high fantasy book I read.
I don't read many because after Robert Jordan, I just didn't have it in me anymore.
I think my last series might have actually been the Kushiel series.
I love that series. Love it.
The first trilogy, the second trilogy, awesome. The third trilogy with Mora, I didn't
like that one. The Nema, it was the Nema or the Nema. I didn't like that one either. I didn't like the protagonist. She was boring.
Yeah, and it was the same story as the first trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, in a loose way. But she's writing the first trilogy again from Cassiel's point of view, which I might go back for that.
I might. If you like, I will say this is a pull list bonus. I will say if you like Jacqueline Carey, her standalone book Starless is incredible. Oh, yeah. That's an incredible novel. Anyway, that's my pull list. Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas.
All right. Want to go into Geek Out?
Yeah. Should I let you go first? I think I should let you go first.
Okay. I'll just go. Okay. So I, on Saturday, sat through 4 hours and 2 minutes of the Snyder Cut. And we need to stop calling it the Snyder Cut because it's not a cut. First and foremost, it is a new movie. When you are giving millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to reshoot like 80% of a movie, it's not a cut. It's a do-over.
Thank you.
That's what annoys me. And then I can't even tell you what's conspiracy and what's truth. Like I've read, he took some of the film home and that's how come Whedon didn't have it. Well, if that's the case, I would have fired him because that's intellectual property theft. You stole from the studio. And then Whedon abused everybody and okay, yeah, I buy into that. Like, fine. But Whedon only filmed small portions of the movie. So it's what this is ultimately all about is Zack Snyder needs to be able to gloat that he's better than Whedon. That's
not a high bar. Not a high bar. I'm sorry.
So Whedon brought us Avengers. So, okay, that was a good movie. Whedon brought us Justice League, which was a shit movie, which was an F. An F so low, I just want to ask, why did you bother? So when your bar is literally cemented to the ground, it's not a hard one to beat. So I will give Zack Snyder his credit. He gets a D-. You put in just enough work and I don't want to see your face again, I'm going to let you pass my class. It's partly because I don't want to hear from you anymore. So this movie is a completely different movie. it was actually, as I was watching it, we kept pausing to go, was that in the original? Was that in the original? Was that in, like, we all were so traumatized by the first movie, none of us could remember the plot. And the night before, I had watched the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman, which, yeah. So Snyder got 7 hours of my life this past weekend.
Damn.
The Ultimate Edition is slightly better. Slightly. And I mean so slightly that we're splitting hairs. The Martha line, sure, it's a better motivation. Like, I see why it did what it did, but no one on their dying bed is going to call out to their mother by their first name.
Nope.
So Justice League does a much, much better job of establishing a plot. There is a plot. Let's just say that.
Okay.
The Amazons battle is a little more logical.
Okay.
Cyborg is an actual character. He does not say booyah, which did actually piss me off. I don't really care. It's a Cyborg catchphrase, so it would be like Wolverine not having a snick. So Cyborg was a much, much better character. Like, you actually empathized with him. Like, he was a character, not a prop piece. The shining moment, which should not have been the shining moment, was the Flash. He was the best part of that movie. He was the only one who cracked me up. He was the light spot when everyone else was all brooding and staring off yonder faces. He cracked jokes. It was delightful.
That's very Barry Allen.
Yeah, it felt like an appropriate Flash. Now, the thing that did get changed, which you're going to actually, this is going to drop it even further for you. There is absolutely zero romance between Diana and Ben Affleck, or Batman, or Bruce Wayne, or whatever. None. Zero. Removed. It doesn't exist. It was never meant to be there.
Well, okay. Yeah, because he had other plans for Batman, which...
And
go ahead.
And it makes so much more plot sense. Like, their romance on screen was so incredibly forced that I was like, this feels dirty. This time, when they're deciding to bring back Superman, the only one who's like, guys, this is not a great idea, guys, is Aquaman. Everyone else is like, we're kind of powerful and we're not winning. We need him. And Aquaman's like, you're bringing back a corpse, everyone. Anyone? So there was more logic and the characters' motivations made more sense.
Okay.
So that is what bumps us up to a D. It's also an 8-part mini. Yeah, it's an 8-part miniseries. There's 8 chapters, which, thank you, Zack Snyder. Your movie bored me to tears that I really enjoyed taking bathroom breaks every 32 minutes. That was the highlight of my day.
Have you seen the hashtag?
Oh my God. Movie? No, what?
No, the long ass movie. Hashtag long ass movie.
So he literally, I think Zack Snyder sat in his office where, he masturbates to photos of himself or just holding a mirror with the other hand, because that's what you do. And he goes, well, Endgame was 3 hours. Mine'll be 4.
Do you love me now, fans? Do you love me now?
Yeah, like, as he whispers into the mirror, you're such a good boy. Like, what? So,
oh my God.
There is all the nightmare alternate reality stuff gets put in there. It makes more sense.
Okay.
To a degree. Lois Lane could have been deleted from the movie. She served no purpose. Poof, gone. She brings Superman back from his little rage moment, but Zack Snyder, he doesn't know how to drop a thread for a sequel. So earlier on, there's a saying that, oh, Lois is the key to everything. And then Lois brings Superman back from the brink, and everyone's like, oh, you were right. And he's like, no, it's something more. You might as well have just said, we'll see this in the sequel.
Did you read the Mary Sue article about that?
Oh God, no.
So basically it's his whole thing was, while Superman was gone, Bruce and Lois have a little relationship, and she leaves Bruce for Superman when he comes back. And then when Darkseid comes, Superman tells Bruce, you have to take care of her, you have to watch over her. And Lois ends up dying anyway, and that's what makes Superman go dark. So basically, Zack Snyder's whole thing in the sequel is going to be fridging Lois to give Batman and Superman an emotional arc.
But there won't be a sequel. The studio has hand out said no sequel.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know what to tell you.
He knew when he was making this that there would be no sequel. So he doesn't just fridge her in the sequel. He fridged her in this, and then has her cameo after her. Like, I don't even understand. Yeah. So the whole
no one does.
Yeah. The whole thing is Zack Snyder was like, well, fuck you. I'm getting my sequel. He knew he wasn't getting a sequel, so he literally made, and it's a cliffhanger. I mean, it's a hands down cliffhanger, in which he literally says, I don't give two shits about the audience. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yep.
The only person that I feel masturbates to themselves more is Chris Nolan. And I feel the two of them have earned a circle jerk. Where they just.
But they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that together because they'd be too afraid the other guy's dick would be bigger than theirs. It was a better movie. And I think ultimately that's really all Zack Snyder wants to hear, is it was a better movie. But you and I shit better movies every morning in the toilet.
Yeah. I literally could watch an episode of like MASH, and it's a better superhero story. Full House, better superhero story. It was a train wreck, and it was a train wreck of proportions that I hadn't seen until X-Men Phoenix Part 2.
Damn.
And you're like, what is going on? That's pretty much how I felt throughout this whole movie.
There were so the comments on this Mary Sue article, half of them were people going, so wait, where did this come from? Why was this going on? And somebody going, oh, I think I read an article where he said blah, blah, blah. If people have to go searching for articles to figure out what the fuck you were doing in your movie, you didn't do a good movie.
And if you can't do a full plot in 4 hours, you don't know how to tell a story.
No.
So, and this is my big beef. If in writing, we get chewed out for, it's called the economy of words. Mm-hmm. If you write a plot that takes too long to tell, it's because the plot generally isn't well thought out.
Yeah.
Now, there's exceptions for your epic, like Game of Thrones level stuff. But for the most part, if that scene doesn't need to be there, take it out. If it starts to delete it. 3 hours of this was deletable. And after the words, all you could sit there and go is, what did you think was going to happen as a franchise? Like, this isn't just Zack Snyder's fault. It's his fault.
Oh, yeah.
Which, once you watch Justice League, after Aquaman has come out, you realize that they soft rebooted with Aquaman. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to pull multiverse theory in your first 5 movies.
Seriously. And I'm of the opinion that if the pandemic hadn't happened and they hadn't had to have shut down production on their slate of upcoming films, they would never have greenlit this. They needed something that was somewhat easy to manage with pandemic restrictions, that they knew they'd make a shit ton of money on, and they went ahead and gave Zack Snyder $70 million to masturbate for 4 hours.
And I've seen better movies with a fraction of that budget. So
me too.
It's not special. It was a pretty movie, I will say. Like, it was extremely well filmed in the special effects for the most part, though Ben Affleck really just lose the bodysuit because you ain't that buff. The rest of it was pretty to watch. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I put it on mute.
Yeah. Well, the only good thing I will ever say about Zack Snyder as a filmmaker is he knows how to give you a beautiful tableau. He knows how to set up an image, but that's not everything you need to be a good filmmaker. That's everything you might need to be a good graphic designer, but not a good storyteller.
Do you watch movies with Mikey?
Oh yeah, I love movies with Mikey.
So Movies with Mikey did a really great one of Man of Steel, and basically picks it apart as saying that Zack Snyder is great at making 30-second long vignettes that are stunning, that never ever string together.
Yeah.
And that was really, that is a good point. I would love to watch a 3-minute YouTube video directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
He might be able to do that. But 4 hours? That's a lot of individual vignettes. And if you looked at it, even how he chopped up the 8 chapters, it was hundreds of vignettes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Zack Snyder, you won against Joss Whedon, who is a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Again, not a high bar.
Okay. On to better Geek Outs. I got way too much time.
That's okay. You needed it, man.
It was a long Geek Out because I refused to make an episode of the Geekorama about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not watching that piece of shit. So thank you for taking the bullet for me. My Geek Out is about a great, fantastic fucking movie that should have got way more Oscar nominations, including Best Director for Regina King. It's on Amazon. I encourage everybody to watch it. It's called One Night in Miami. And it is an adaptation of a stage play by the same name. It is incredibly hard on stage, but in particular in film, which is a medium that needs to move, to tell a compelling story that does not drag, that is contained to either a single location for the most of the movie or a single time, like a single night. With the exception of the first 15 minutes and the last 15 minutes of this film, the entire thing is contained to a hotel room and one night. And I wasn't bored for a second. I was riveted to this film. And not only is that due to the performances, but it is due to Regina King as a director. The director really is in charge of pacing a film and making sure that those moments, the performances are well paced, they are well represented. Regina King could teach a masterclass at this point in how to direct a good film. Zack Snyder, sign up for that class. It was beautiful.
She played the character in Watchmen, which was originally filmed by Zack Snyder.
She's the main character in the Watchmen series.
Yeah.
She also won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for If Beale Street Could Talk, I think, was the name of the film.
Oh, yeah.
So the film, I don't know if it's based on an actual night that these people spent together, but it's the night that Muhammad Ali, at this point still going by Cassius Clay, won the heavyweight championship. And it is Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and I always forget his name, and I feel very bad.
Jim Brown.
Yes, Jim Brown. They all get together to celebrate Cassius winning, and they are all four, all of them in this crossroads in their life. Sam Cooke, is played to perfection. I mean, all of them are played to perfection, but I have a soft spot for Leslie Odom Jr., who was in Hamilton. He played Aaron Burr, sir. And he's fantastic as Sam Cooke. And he is trying to get into clubs like the Copacabana and really get that respect from a white audience, even while also being upset that at Bob Dylan's song Blowing in the Wind, because it was, and I didn't realize this, but in real life, Sam Cooke was really upset that he didn't write a song with that kind of impact. And so hearing Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind, it was a pivotal moment for Sam Cooke as a singer-songwriter. And then you've got Malcolm X, who is starting his separation from the Nation of Islam in New York because of the abuses of the leader of that particular sect of Islam. And there's a lot of political machinations going on, a lot of issues with his family that are all tied up in that separation. This is when Malcolm X really started to fear for his life and the life of his family. And his one security in all of this is that Cassius Clay is his guy. They're really good friends. He's going to bring Cassius Clay into the fold, and that's going to be the thing that protects him from the political machinations within the Nation of Islam. Cassius Clay just won the heavyweight championship, but he wants to be a Muslim, but he's not sure about announcing that yet. And then I just lost his name again. How does that keep happening?
Jim Brown.
Football player. Jim Brown. Jim Brown is trying to figure out, he doesn't really want to stay in football. He really feels like his future is in film. Like, he can be a black man in roles that maybe you've never seen a black man in. Like a black guy in a Western that, it's a different kind of role. He's not a slave or anything like that. He's a cowboy. And so he's wanting to move that kind of thing in his career, but he's also kind of a little bit unsure. And so it's this night where all these things are happening between these men and with the greater world, because there's a lot going on in the world at this point in time. And everything comes to a head. Everything comes to a head. Malcolm and Sam are fighting like cats and dogs. Like, Malcolm is really pushing him, basically telling him, you've sold out, you have so much power and potential, and you're wasting it on pandering to the white man. And Sam is like, yeah, well, my pandering to the white man does this, this, and this. And very good point. Sam Cooke points out how, he's selling rights to songs to white singers and making all this money, all these residuals. And he's like, it's a business decision. I am making this money for my security and my future by playing the game, even though he hates the fucking game, and it's Jim Brown and Cassius Clay talking about sports and talking, Cassius is at the beginning of his sports career and Jim Brown is at the end of his sports career, and so there's all these things that end up bubbling up to the surface. And at the end of it, you have Cassius doing an interview with Malcolm, like the same night with reporters, and he announces that he is becoming a Muslim. And Malcolm thinks, great, I've got my guy, I'm secure. Sam is starting to think about that song that he really wants to write. That's going to make a statement, and Jim Brown has made the decision. I am just going all in with acting. I'm quitting football. And then they show you, and this is the last 15 minutes, it shows you what happens after that night. And as we know in history, Cassius Clay actually doesn't keep Malcolm as his advisor in the Nation of Islam. He goes with a guy that's in the head of the nation, the one that Malcolm has been trying to get out for abuses of power. And it shows Malcolm and his family in their home. Their home is firebombed. Molotov cocktails getting thrown through the window, and his wife and daughters and him have to run out in the middle of the night. You see Jim Brown on the set of his next movie and feeling a little nervous about, God, did I make the right decision? And then you see Sam Cooke on a late night show, and the guy's like, you have a new song, right? And he's like, oh yeah. And I think the name is Change Is Gonna Come. And it's it is a beautiful song. And then, so he wrote the song. He wrote his version, his answer to Bob Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind. And then you see at the end kind of what happens. And Sam Cooke died that December, same year. He was shot and killed in a hotel room. Malcolm X dies in February. Muhammad Ali, of course, goes to jail for protesting the draft, dodging the draft, saying that he's not going to fight because it's against his faith. And Jim Brown, I think they don't really tell you a whole lot of what happens with Jim Brown. I think he does go on to have a film career. But it is incredible. It's an incredible film. It's so timely. I feel like it's set in the 60s, but man, it is so timely for today. And it could even be timeless. The performances are stunning. Regina King's direction is amazing. The adaptation of the script is just mwah. I mean, it's the whole thing. I can't say enough about it. It's heartbreaking and it's thought-provoking and it's beautiful. It's just a great film.
I'm still upset that there's not going to be another season of Watchmen just because I want more her.
I know.
I don't even care what the plot is. She could just sit there and read a book. She's
amazing. Yeah.
She gives me all the feels. All right. We are going to go to a commercial. When we get back, we are going to talk some WandaVision.
Behind every great superhero story is a sleep-deprived author. Join Franklin Kendrick every Friday as he takes you behind the mask and asks today's hottest superhero authors the burning question we all want to know. Do they always write in spandex, or is that just a weekend thing?
All right, and we're back. So, WandaVision, what was it, 9 episodes?
9 or 10. Maybe it was just 9. I think it was 9, because I remember complaining that there weren't 10 episodes.
Yeah, I definitely would have been okay with one more in there. Actually, I would have been fine with a whole second season of it. But
yeah, me too.
So the whole premise for this show is a little bit weird. Like right off the bat, before we even know what a plot is, they made sure to tease us with the fact that each episode, up to a point, was going to mimic a period of TV.
Yep.
And okay, this sounds weird. Like it just sounds weird.
Mm-hmm.
If you
I was personally very worried they weren't going to be able to pull that off. I was like, how are they going to do this? And oh my God, did they pull it off?
I'm not even going to be able to tell you all the episodes. It's Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Malcolm in the Middle. No.
Well, Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched. Brady Bunch. Family Ties.
Family Ties. That one I didn't really like.
Malcolm in the Middle is one.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Full House. Full House was also referenced. Modern Family was the second. That was the last kind of.
And then it kind of didn't have a.
No, it was. Everything started to break at that point. So
the series is introduced in a way as we first see this and we hear what the concept behind it is, we think, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And that's basically the plot for this show. The opening for Dick Van Dyke was good, and you were like, oh, okay, that's cute. But the way the characters personified the period of film that was being demonstrated for each episode was uncanny.
It was. I liked Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen. I've always thought they were really good actors, but after this show, I was like, you've just gone up a whole nother level. Like the understanding not only of the deeper themes of the material, but the time period of TV that they were portraying. Wow, that was amazing.
And every episode was a character study. So it's not like you're not going in to play Wanda and Vision. you're going in to play Wanda and Vision playing somebody else.
Exactly.
The one that it kind of creeped me out was the Modern Family episode when she's curled up on the chair and she's doing the thing with her hair. I was like, oh my God, it's the season finale of Modern Family that I wanted. Like, she was Claire to such a degree that I was like, are you going to get in trouble for this much copying? Because that was freaky.
I loved the producers brought in people that had worked on classic TV shows. They actually had Dick Van Dyke as a consultant for the first 2 episodes. And I'm like, that's solid because it's got the total feel of it. They brought in other people that had worked on shows like Bewitched, The Brady Bunch, Full House, just the Family Ties, just to make sure that they really got the feel of that time period. And there were times I was laughing uncomfortably because I was like, oh my God, I remember this show so much.
Her giving birth behind the couch was probably because you can't have someone give birth on TV. It's just
and then birthing like 4-month-olds. Like those babies were so fucking huge.
And so that whole thing was just, everything felt like it honored the source material.
Yes.
Also at the same time giving it a little this is ridiculous.
And also having to tell the story about what the hell is going on. It was, in terms of writing, it was amazing. Like, again, those writers, they should teach a class, and Zack Snyder should attend.
Seriously, Zack Snyder will just give you a list of things to watch. You'll be better for it.
Yes.
And I think, so like if you watched Daredevil or Jessica Jones, there's a tone that carries through it. So even if you just by chance sat down in the middle of the episode, you'd be like, this looks like Jessica Jones. This didn't have that because of how different each episode was. And yet the plot proved that it could overcome such drastic style differences that you knew you were in store for a good story.
Yeah, it was the plot, the underlying plot of what the hell is going on was the connecting thread. They stayed true to that in every episode. And what I love, I feel like it's very hard to tease out a mystery like this and do it well. Like, so many shows get to the point where I'm like, just say it. You know what I mean? This one, it kind of ran up to that line for me, but it never crossed it, which I thought was, incredible, honestly.
And what I even thought was better than that was they did a faux pas. And the only time I've ever seen this done as good, maybe better, this was a good one, was in Scrubs. So did you ever watch Scrubs?
Oh, not consistently. I've seen a few episodes.
So there's the opening sequence that they always go through every episode. It's the same opening sequence. And then JD starts dating, I'm never going to remember the actress's name. He starts dating this girl and they retcon her into the opening thing. And so when he goes to put the x-ray up at the very end, she steps into frame and goes, it's backwards, and fixes it. And they just wove her in like she had always been there. And when they retconned the show to include Agatha, I wanted them to do it to the entire MCU. I wanted her in everything.
Everything, I know.
I would have watched a 2-hour movie of just Agatha popping into everything.
Well, and part of that is the actress. She's a chameleon, and I don't say that about very many actresses, but I was thinking about her career, and I was like, holy shit, she's amazing. And she played a new character every episode. Whereas Wanda and Vision were essentially the same with a few changes. Agatha was completely different.
And she almost had to embody the style of the episode more than anyone else.
Yes.
And so every time she would pop up behind something or duck in a door, you were like, oh God, you are the neighbor of every show.
Yeah, exactly. But not just that, you're now kind of a villain. And that actually, I want to talk about that because there was, but there wasn't a villain, which is interesting to me. I would say if there was any, I mean, Grief could be a villain, but it's tough.
I actually think Agatha was a catalyst. Was she the bad guy? Yes, they had to overcome her.
Yeah.
But she was almost more of a plot device for
getting Wanda to the acceptance stage of grief. Yeah. Yes. I agree with that.
I almost feel like she might have needed to perfect her therapeutic methods, but she was the grief counselor in a really bizarre way.
Exactly.
So, but I agree with you that, and I think that's what made this show really unique. The first time, so I watched all of them on my own, trying to not get spoiled every episode, which was a chore. But the first episode where I don't know if it was the first one, it might have been the second one, where Vision questioned something.
That was the Family Ties episode.
And she just goes, Family Ties no.
One. Yeah. And, oh, no, wait. Oh, it was, sorry. It was the one, it might have been the first or second, it was one of those, the beekeeper shows up.
Yeah.
He's like, Wanda, what is that? And she just says, no, yeah. There was also, I mean, there were shades of I Love Lucy in those first couple of episodes. There were, it was, yeah, amazing.
But the beekeeper, when she knows him away, I was like, okay, someone's invading her space. I get why you did that. But Vision, when she does it to him,
yes,
that was a gut punch of how dark the storyline really was. And it was told in a way that didn't feel repulsive to Wanda.
Yeah, they weren't demonizing her. If anything, it was like, I understood by that point, by the time she tried to do that to Vision, I understood by that point that she is desperately hanging on to what she had always wanted. She is so deep in her grief and what she has lost that she just can't bear to lose this. So she's holding on to it tight. And in holding on to that, she's doing things she wouldn't normally do.
And the fact that she was the person that she loved the most, she had to control him to keep. So in that moment, for me, it was her acknowledging that she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
To some degree. And she would even be willing to hurt this person to stop the hurt.
Yeah.
And that was just that episode was really funny, and I'm going to go sit in a dark corner and cry.
That was the one where the dog died. It was a very special episode. That's what it was called. Yeah. It was a lot. That's when I feel like I realized, this is going to get dark. Like, I always kind of thought it was a little on the dark side, but then that episode, I was like, damn, this is...
And I really, really liked that they did this as a series, not a movie. And because I always think that TV series are always the low budget version of a movie. And, there were definitely moments where you were like, oh, budget fell a little bit short on some special effects.
Yeah.
But really, it's hard to make anyone fly and look good anyway. So,
yeah.
But this, I thought, was good because it gave us time to explore that grief. It wasn't you have an hour and 15 minutes until the resolution in which this has got to be boxed up and fixed.
Yeah.
And so
I would argue, even though Wanda's in a comparatively better place by the end of the series, I don't think that it's fixed for her.
no, and I actually think that while we watch her go through the stages of grief, she has only gotten through because it's not a linear path, and we see setbacks over and over again. I think she's gotten to past denial. And I think that might be as far as she's gotten. And now I want to know more about it.
Yeah, I think she has started. The fact that she had to, and this was a moment that broke my heart. I actually started to cry. That last episode, I cried off and on, actually. But the moment that we realize, like, Wanda knows she's hurting these people and she doesn't want to hurt these people anymore. And so she's trying to undo what she did. But in order to do that, she has to give up her children and her husband. It's an either or kind of thing. And that broke my fucking heart. And then when she actually did it, watching her say goodnight to her kids and knowing that she was never going to see them again, that wrecked me.
And you think that she's a superhero. She's going to do the right thing. She does, but it's not the easy thing. And it wasn't a super flashy battle on how it happened. That episode, I actually think was, and that's why I think that it was more of the grief than it was Agatha being the villain. Because she beat Agatha. Like, okay, fine. We knew that was going to happen. And for people who read the comics, we knew where it was going. But to see it, you were kind of like, this is uncomfortable.
And I like that in battling Agatha, she learned about herself. There was a lot of self-discovery in that. It wasn't just, and that was the thing about the whole series, is they didn't just use one thing for one purpose. They multitasked the shit out of every element of that show. And Agatha in particular, I feel like.
And I feel that during the entire series, Wanda had a feeling that people felt a certain way about her. And Agatha said, embrace it, just become it. And it was the first time that Wanda said no.
Yeah.
She had kept it to herself. And even you see it in the Avengers, and you see it in Endgame, where she suspects these things about herself. But this time is the first time that she stood up for her, not for other people, but for her. And I just thought that was a awesome growth moment for a character where, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get any of that growth in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also just, one of my greatest fears with this series was that they were going to turn Wanda into the trope of the very powerful female hero that can't handle her powers and needs to be put down like a dog. And they telegraphed that rather strongly in the character of the director of S.W.O.R.D., whom I just wanted someone to fucking punch. And when Darcy rammed the truck into his car, I was like, yes. But they didn't do that. And instead, the act of her embracing and understanding her power was what helped her take the first step toward acceptance at the end of the show, which I thought was just incredible. I don't get to see many female heroes have that kind of journey.
And even more than that, because maybe you still thought she was the bad guy in this, they had the final scene with her walking through the town ashamed. Like, she felt bad for what she did. And when she talks to Monica, and Monica's like, what you did wasn't great, but I get it. And I think
I loved that moment. I loved it so much.
And I loved that they didn't leave room for interpretation. There wasn't a question here, because Wanda in that moment, I felt, was every person.
Yeah. And she needed somebody to tell her, no, you didn't, it wasn't right what you did, but you're not a monster. Because
Yeah.
how many of us, when we grieve or when we're going through something that is incredibly difficult, how many of us do make choices in our pain that hurt other people or that make us feel like a monster, that make us feel like the bad guy? And all we need is somebody to honestly take a look at us and our actions and say, yeah, that wasn't great, but you're not the bad guy. You're not the monster.
And I feel that the director knew that people would try and villainize her. And so the director was like, we're going to take that right off your hashtag and we're going to cement this. And I think that is, I don't think that Wanda was the hero of the story. I don't think this was a story to have a hero. And I think that was the really cool part of it.
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, like there's going to be good guys and bad guys.
There clearly is from the pilot, but they're also talking about emotional pain and trauma from a very respectful and it feels like informed position. I don't know that for certain, but it feels like they must have writers or at least consultants that understand this kind of trauma and pain.
I think we're going to get a little bit more of a clear-cut storyline.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because, after the roller coaster of WandaVision, like, okay, we could use 10 weeks of knowing who is good and bad.
Yeah.
But because again, and then after that, we're going to have Loki, who is the good guy.
What the hell is he? Yeah, and I'm also here for the buddy cop vibe I'm getting off of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, they haven't even gotten on screen together, but from the trailers, I'm like, this is going to be a lot of fun.
I want nonstop snark.
Yeah.
I also really like that in true Marvel fashion, they ended WandaVision with so many spinoffs.
Yeah. Lots of questions. It's not like they're like everything's wrapped up in a nice bow. I have lots of questions that I would like answers.
So Secret Invasion is going to be a TV series, which will star Monica Rambeau and Nick Fury.
Yes. I'm so here for that.
She's not going to be Miss Marvel. She's going to be her other persona.
Photon. She'll be Photon.
And then there is the direct entry into the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. We have White Vision now too, which poses some interesting questions for West Coast Avengers.
And then we have the opening into West Coast Avengers, which Falcon and Winter Soldier is playing into. So we think,
and the Hawkeye television show. The Hawkeye television show plays into it a little bit, apparently too. And they're talking about America. What's her name? She's super, super strong. She's a Latina. I swear to God, it's not America Ferrera. That's an actress, but her name is America something. I don't remember, but I think she's a West Coast Avenger, and they are in development of a television show for her.
I know there's also Hulk. Like, I mean, at this point, pick a character. There's a series coming. Don't worry.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little excited, little fangirl. That is fucking criminal. I'm sorry.
It's probably like phase 32.
Squirrel Girl is a fan-freaking-tastic character. And since they've already greenlit Ms. Marvel, just throw her in there. They're best buds in the comics.
The other thing that the big opener that this leaves for us is, if you read in the comic books, there's the WandaVision spoofs on two major storylines. The first one being the House of M, in which Wanda's kind of gone crazy. She's got mental health issues throughout the whole run, and her brother decides to push her over the edge. And so she recreates the world in the House of M. And that way she has her children, the mutants are in charge, and mankind, who cares about them? And this really did play into that in a way that made sense for the MCU. But at the end of that, she's realizing that mutants are horrible, evil human beings. And so she says, no more mutants.
And this basically kind of commits genocide.
And she gets rid of all but 198 mutants in Marvel. So this is opening the doorway. And there are many moments that people are like, oh, well, this is obvious. This right here. Like, everyone keeps trying to say that the aerospace engineer that never gets a name is Reed Richards. No, it's not.
Well, and I just also want to point out they use some elements of House of M without making Wanda the crazy woman that can't handle her powers. Again, I mean, I have never read House of M, but everything I know about it, I personally despise it because look at what you did to this fascinating character. No, thank you.
Well, and that's the thing. She's not a fascinating character in the comics. She is not. Elizabeth Olsen is actually bringing to life something that I don't think ever quite made it. When she was in West Coast Avengers, I thought that she was subpar. When she was part of X-Men, I thought she was neglected. I just don't think she ever got her limelight. House of M, she got to harness the crazy in a way that made sense for her. And that was the first time that I thought, oh, someone's paying attention to her. I don't think they achieved what they thought they did.
No.
And it's not until X-Men versus Phoenix or X-Men versus Avengers that we see her arc come full circle. And yet she's still not the main character in her own arc. So,
well, we are over time, but I do want to ask really quick, where do they take Wanda from here? What are your theories really quick before we end the episode? Where do they take Wanda from here?
Well, we already know she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. So I'm assuming that she is either going to be his mentee or, get ready for it, she's going to be one of the villains.
No.
I have a feeling that it's only a matter of time before someone in Marvel screws something up. So I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those moments. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, because it would take this beautiful growth and character that we now have. I feel like this fascinating, interesting character that we have now at the end of WandaVision, and it would just make her another casualty of the trope that I've been talking about, and I really cannot stand that.
I would be okay if she went dark, like not evil, but dark.
Maybe like kind of
dark
or anti-hero even.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with her being in the gray area of things. Like I think that would fit, honestly.
But I don't know how that would measure up against Doctor Strange. I like the first movie, but I kind of have low expectations for this one.
I'm not a fan of the character. I'll watch it for Elizabeth Olsen, and Benedict Cumberbatch is pretty to look at, so that's a bonus. Yeah. I really hope, first of all, I was delighted that they brought magic in with her in terms of like that she has probability bending abilities. I thought that was interesting. I think that this will open the doorway for the MCU to now have mutants. If it doesn't, then they just teased us for nothing, and I think that's mean.
Well, there's already in production a secret something that no one knows anything about called the Mutants.
There we go. I hope that we do see more of her. I would love a solo Scarlet Witch. I think that she's proven with this show that she can carry a narrative storyline like that and do the heavy lifting. I'd love to see a Scarlet Witch movie.
I would actually really like if she brings on like the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah.
Like her and Hawkeye. Well, I really just want Hawkeye to drop off his daughter and then he can leave.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner, you don't need to be involved.
Yeah, everyone's better than you. His SNL skit was perfect. Just use him as a club. But I feel like she was the next generation in the Avengers. Like I felt like there's this upcoming class of actual super people.
Yeah.
And now that Avengers I don't even know, is there going to be another Avengers movie or are we going to position into other things?
Yeah, from what I know, there has not been anything said. So
yeah,
I don't know.
The crossover event doesn't have to be Avengers. It could be many, many things. So I think that there's a lot of potential for the character, and I think I kind of want to see her grow up a little.
Yeah.
Like I want to see her be the mentor that she didn't have at the beginning. So
yeah, I would love that too. That's a great. Well, then I think we have our question of the week, which is, what do you want to see the MCU do with Wanda? And I'm going to throw White Vision in there because I'm very curious to see what they do with that.
The only thing I thought was weird at the end is, hey, honey, I'm about to be obliterated out of existence. By the way, there's another me.
Just so you know.
Like, wouldn't that come up in your annihilation speech?
Yeah.
Hey, I know you're all alone and you think that no one will ever love you again, but guess what? I'm out there.
But with no memory or personality, though. Like, he's literally a blank slate.
No, he's Vision. He's everything Vision is plus more now.
Really? Oh, yeah, because he shared his memories with him.
Yeah.
Oh.
He shared his memories through Wanda's eyes.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that poses some interesting questions. Okay, yeah.
And her children come back to life later. So they're there.
Well, yeah. So listeners, what are your theories? What are your desires? Let us know in the comments. Send us an email. Also, if you've seen the Snyder Cut, you can crap on it in the comments too.
I want to see the WandaVision After Dark.
Hells yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Take care, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button.